Hello, everybody. The Presidents of the United States of America Tube Amplifier, brought to you by KRFF 95.9 FM, RadioFreeFargo.org, streaming everywhere on the blue and green marble you hail from. We can get into your ear hole. Welcome, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday, 4 o'clock, I get in here. 4:20, open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and I'm having a beautiful voice day today. As you guys can probably tell, it sounds the timbre is just a little bit different in my vocality. I was, from Sunday to Tuesday night, I was up by the Canadian border doing a Bible camp thing, and I like to hang out in my hammock, and I like to talk. I don't know if anybody knows that. But, so this is a combination between, because it got down to 45 degrees one night. I was sleeping outside in a hammock. Boy, oh boy, let me tell you. I mean, I think I went to sleep, but, I mean, that's cold. I mean, and I've got, preventative measures. I have insulated blah, 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 blahs, I'm kind of a hammock nerd. But still, I've noticed my voice has got a little bit of razzmatazz today. So, you're in for a treat. I like how I sound, so I'm assuming you guys like how you sound too. Anyway, this show's brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy. Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook, blackcottagealchemy.com. 1,600 megs of CBD. A bunch of other herbs and spices to put on your body for positive results. Thank you, Black Cottage Alchemy, for sponsoring this show. I believe God created cannabis for us to use as we see fit, and I shout him out every day. But specifically, Antioch Church, 417 Main Avenue, 10 a.m. We do a recovery class for all you junkies, and once you come through, you won't be. If you got the monkey on your back, or you've kicked him off yourself and he's pulling on your pant leg, we got what you need. 11 a.m. worship. Come on through. Again, it's kind of gloomy all of a sudden, but as long as you're alive, it's a good day. Right before me, I even got it down here so I can tell you. Right before me is This Side of Country, 9 to 11, hosted by Trav. And then you got Fred, spelled with a P, doing the AI automation thing. You know how he do. Canna-Talk ND, me, Thursdays, 4 to 5, hosted by me. Stinky Arts Music Mart, right after me, 5 to 7. I'm not sure if he'll be in today. Then you got Mixtape, Thursday, 7 to 9, hosted by Butter. Artemis Blood Shrine, 9 to 11, hosted by Artemis. Artemis Shrine. Man, that's fun to say when you got like a rattly, crackly voice. But anyway, let's push through this red tape so we can talk about the fun stuff. I got Minnesota up in the news today. We got a variety of things to discuss. Because people have been hitting me with questions like, well, my town, ain't nobody going to vote for a dispensary in my town. You might get a dispensary in Minnesota in your town, Wilson, but not me, because they're going to vote it out. Well, that's the beauty of this cannabis measure, is the creators of it really knew how to write one to keep the naysayers and the Karens and the the people we don't like from getting their grubby hands in it. It really was a good measure in that regard, because it doesn't matter if every 1,200 people, every 12,000 people can have one dispensary in every town that exists in Minnesota. So Breckenridge, get ready, people. Breckenridge, you guys are going to fire it up, and that's going to be awesome. Because and I want all you guys from Breckenridge, because I know there's at least 40,000 of you listening. When it becomes legal, go stand right on that bridge and just get like maybe some hookahs and just start blowing your exhales over the bridge into Wahpeton, North Dakota. For me, for Wilson. But anyway, you're listening to Radio Free Fargo 95.9. It's community radio. Business owners, managers, nonprofit organizations you consider in advertising, why not learn what underwriting means on a nonprofit community radio station like us, Radio Free Fargo? To learn more about what underwriting is, please contact us at our website, www.radiofreefargo.org, or at our profile on Facebook. Why not let listeners know that you support the community by supporting a community radio station like 95.9er? Again, what a beautiful day to be alive, and my voice is sounding on point today. We're going to talk about cannabis, the benefits of cannabis, and cannabis news in general. Again, we're going to talk about Minnesota, but I don't need to keep beating that. We'll come back here after a little music. We're going to play diazepam, which I believe, is that the generic word for Valium? I don't know. And you guys probably all know about this Ren guy, but He's pretty interesting. So here's diazepam, Ren 95.9. Self-destructive healing is one and the same. Spoken by Ren. Diazepam here on KRFF 95.9 LPFM. And I'm behind the 8 ball probably with this guy. But apparently he performs in a hospital gown, which I'm guessing is sewn in the back. But I haven't looked at Ren from the back, so I don't know. But he's really quite a wordsmith. And so there you go. Diazepam by Ren, KRFF 95.9. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday I get in here, 4:20, open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and you can look forward to that in mere minutes. In fact, 10 minutes. So there you go. This hour of programming on KRFF, LPFM, Radio Free Fargo, 95.9 FM is being underwritten by Flatland Guitar and Lutherie. Flatland Guitar is your full-service guitar shop and your exclusive dealer for Yamaha, Taylor, and Paul Reed Smith guitars and other brands. They sell guitars on consignment. They take trade-ins and have a full-service on-site repair center. Check out Flatland Guitar and Lutherie on Facebook or visit them in person at their location at 145 25th Street South in Fargo. Again, right before me this morning was The Side of Country with Trav. This music mix is happening after Stinky Arts Music Mart, and then Artemis Shrine wraps up the evening here at KRFF. Again, stick tuned for 4:20. We're going to open a big fat bag of cannabis news. But right now, I'm going to give you a little cannabis news now, because that's what I do. So, we're going to talk about this. How will cannabis legalization in Minnesota affect your job? This is from CBS News. Minnesotans will be able to possess and grow up to 2 pounds of cannabis starting August 1st. That just sounds crazy, doesn't it? But what happens at work? Now, there's some interesting things in here. That's the question that the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce is trying to answer for its more than 6,000 member businesses. The big change in the state's drug policy will impact how businesses craft their own cannabis policies. See, that's the thing. And we don't know what's in that measure per se. But it sure is interesting. When we start reading these particular things that they've added, it's almost like a wish list for people who believe cannabis should be legalized properly. And we'll get into it here. Maybe more at 4:20. The question is, can we even have a policy at all? And if we can, what do we need to put in it? We want to make sure our members understand those nuances and appropriately apply the policy, which is human resource speak for we want to control the people and make them think they're the ones making the decisions. And they're the ones that want it. The new law says employers can't require a drug test to screen for cannabis as a condition of employment. Did you guys know that? Did you know that the new measure in Minnesota added this to the employer restriction? That they can't drug test me, except for some exceptions, like copperoonies, firefighters, child care workers, anyone needing a commercial driver's license. However, it seemed to me like I'd covered this a few weeks back, that the DOT isn't doing the same, because back in the day, if you were doing felony probation officer could look at your private area while you eliminated into a cup to make sure that you weren't substituting or whatever. Job up at Occupational Health at 12th Avenue North in Fargo, if you get into an accident or you got a pre-employment drug screen or whatever, that's where you go. And a lady will be sitting really close to you, but there'll be a door you can close, like an accordion door. But that doesn't happen with DOT. DOT, they can literally, they do literally come in and watch you from the front, eliminate, because of how serious it is to be driving around, I guess, dirty on stuff, driving trucks. So even the DOT's making concessions. But a company can have a rule prohibiting cannabis products or use at the workplace or while using company equipment. Oh, can they? I mean, do you really need a rule like that? Oh, but they can't. It's almost like they feel like they're getting away with something in the controlling department. But we can control whether or not you're driving a tractor around on crack. Well, of course you can. A person can be fired for showing up high. Well, of course you should. And an employer can request cannabis testing if it has reasonable suspicion someone is under the influence on company time. But again, The problem we have is you could be wrong, and I'm just a silly dude. You could be wrong, but at home, I consume cannabis medically, and then you think for some reason because I knocked over a bunch of tires with the forklift that I need to be tested then. Well, you've got to be able to, and that'll get just hung up in court, because you can't prove that that's happening at work. So you need to make sure it's in writing, and you need to make sure it's distributed to employees in advance of action. So we'll talk more about that at 4:20. But right now, we got to get into that last musical thing that happens. And I got brand new Tidget by Tenarian. And that's exciting. Here we go. Tidget, 95.9. Well, that was Tidget. Tenarian. They're from like some desert place. They wear like stuff on their heads and they play like Telecasters. But anyway, you're listening to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson here on KRFF 95.9, RadioFreeFargo.org, streaming everywhere in the world. So if you want to know about North Dakota and general cannabis news from like Lithuania, you just click on RadioFreeFargo.org and listen to me. But it's 4:20. So let's get ready for that, shall we? Let's just take a moment to reflect. Okay, time's up. All right, get yourself ready. A few seconds. We're going to do this thing. Peace.
Hey, it's Phil from Cannaheads. Like this episode? Hit that like button. And if you enjoy the show, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on cannabis news, local and national. Listen live on 95.9 in the Fargo, North Dakota region from 4 to 5 p.m. on Thursday. For our non-Fargo region friends, you can listen on your favorite podcast platform. Just search Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Now enjoy the show.
All right. Howdy, everybody. Howdy. How are you guys doing? Good? Good. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. It's 4:21. So, what do they say? 1 minute late to catch the bus. Rest in peace, Johnny No H. He used to say that right before he started taking all of his clothes off in the downtown bar. Anyway, what are we talking about? Let's talk about Minnesota. And I got a lot of stuff to cover, and it's crazy how much stuff we got to cover, but let's get back to this. Okay, so generally Minnesota business. Okay, so in recap, if you just got into this thing, I'm reading an article from CBS News. How will cannabis legalization in Minnesota affect your job? And what's crazy is what I didn't know is that there's a new law inside there that says employers can't drug test, can't pre-screen for cannabis in Minnesota. I mean, I'm not saying I'm thinking of moving to Minnesota, but to me, that is huge. Isn't it? I mean, the new law says you can't pre-employment drug screen me in Minnesota. That's huge, I feel. I feel that's huge. So anyway, so that's what we're talking about. Minnesota. So you need, let's see, but you can absolutely say nothing in this law is requiring me to allow you to have these products on my property or while you're using my equipment. And that's true. And that's cool. So, he characterized the law as pretty thoroughly protecting Minnesotans. So, Minnesota businesses can't refuse to hire someone because they use cannabis off the clock. But Jason anticipates there will be growing pains for the new rules. Of course. So, just like with alcohol, now that adult use cannabis is legal, you are free to consume it in your free time, but you may not show up to work impaired. Which, I mean, I don't need Jason Tarasek telling me that. That everybody knows that. Nobody was ever contesting that. Okay. Can I smoke cannabis in a public place? The legislation says Minnesotans can only use cannabis for rec purposes at their private residence. However, smoking cannabis is prohibited in public places or on the balconies. There are some exceptions for people who are part of the medical program. And from what I read is that if you can smoke tobacco, you can also smoke cannabis in a public place, but I don't know that. Okay, so Minnesota cities press pause on cannabis stores. Now, I knew this was going to happen. Several cities are passing temporary now, that's the key word, moratoriums on new cannabis retailers until they can set up local rules and regulations. Now, hopefully there's parameters around how long they can milk the clock, because you know they will. And everybody that's moratoriuming basically are the ones that if they could have defaulted, if they could have said, we don't want no stinking DL, that's devil's lettuce, in our town, other states allow for that, but not Minnesota. That's what's so awesome about this measure. You can no longer pre-employment drug screen. Hallelujah. And you can't, as a one mayor board member group, speak for the whole town of Breckenridge. A dispensary is coming for you guys because of this new measure, or this law and what they wrote in it. So, the city of West St. Paul Monday night passed a moratorium on new cannabis retail businesses until January of 2025. But again, August 1st, you can possess up to 2 ounces. And we'll read about that too, because basically, it's illegal to buy from the black market to get it into Minnesota. But once you get it into Minnesota and that exchange has exchanged hands, you're allowed to have it. And you don't really have to explain how or where. So that's another crazy thing. Okay. All right, so the new rec cannabis law bars cities from outright banning cannabis businesses. See that? God bless you, Minnesota. But cities can stall would-be retailers until those state licenses become a reality. And that is what's happening. So right now, people aren't coming in, but they are asking a lot of questions. When can we get up and running? When are we going to be able to do this? So it's clear some would-be retailers want to set up their stores between now and 2025 in anticipation of gaining a state retail license. So even though they can't get a license from the state yet and technically can't open, I think the moratorium is a way to just let the public know, hey, we're looking at the issue, we're taking a pause. Pauses are never good with the government, I feel. So Hopkins, they picked a shorter temporary moratorium. So they just started with just a 90-day moratorium, assuming the council can adopt a set of rules across the next 3 months. So Mankato passed a 1-year moratorium. So I'm guessing Breckenridge will have one. But anyway, basically it's one for every 12,000 people, but the intent was clear. The legislator wanted at least one per city, and I love that. He said there'll be a maximum number allowed per county, so a city can decline a cannabis store if that county has already reached the maximum. Cities won't be allowed to tack on extra taxes. So there will be a maximum number allowed per county. So that's exciting. But just for those people who didn't know, if you're in a town that you think, man, this town's ran by Catholic bigots, there's no way we're going to get the devil's lettuce up in our town. Yes, you can. And yes, it will. Because the law that they wrote, the measure they wrote included that. And I think that's great. This is from MaryJane.com. Jackie Kennedy had the Secret Service dispose of cannabis that was growing in her garden. Jackie Kennedy allegedly had the Secret Service quietly destroy some cannabis plants, which I don't even know how you quietly destroy cannabis plants, but seems like you got to use fire and smoke and stuff. But anyway, Kate Story's latest book, White House by the Sea, is a detailed history of the family. And his family regularly spent their summers at a Cape Cod escape before his assassination. And his wife continued to spend time there with her second husband, Aristotle Onassis. What a great name. Anyway, Jackie O spent a significant amount of time on the Cape, sunbathing nude and painting in the sunroom. I don't know why we need to know that. But in 1975, the year of my birth, Kathy, the assistant to Onassis, made an unexpected discovery that threatened to bring the idyllic getaway to an end. One summer day, she found some suspicious-looking weeds in the family garden. McCann pointed the plants out to Jack Dempsey, a former police chief and friend of the family, who confirmed that the plants were indeed cannabis. Dempsey, who used to regularly hang out with the Secret Service agents who were assigned to protect the family, immediately told Jackie O about the discovery. "Are you kidding me?" she responded, according to an excerpt of the book. "Oh, no, this can't get out. How are we going to fix this?" Dempsey proposed a simple solution. "Just ignore it. We'll pull it." Onassis was relieved to hear that the problem could be resolved without notifying the local cops. "Good," she said. "I don't want this to get out." Onassis had good reason to fear getting caught with cannabis. Just 4 years earlier, Tricky Dick kicked off his notorious war on drugs. So that 1971? And cops all across the U.S. were cracking down on cannabis. Any regular citizen who was caught with live pot plants growing in their garden could be given prison time. So, man, it is stinking raining and lightning out here. How am I going to get from here to my work? Man, it better stop in 20 minutes. Okay, that's not for you guys. You guys don't care. I do, though. But anyway, let's keep going. It's thundering out there, too. MJ Biz Daily. States give cannabis data to Biden administration for rescheduling review. Now, you know the rescheduling review is coming up. We, and by the collective we, I mean you and I, we want it just removed from the schedule. And so 5 states with medical cannabis programs have shared key data, which is awesome, including the products, because, again, one of the reasons it's on the controlled substance list is because it didn't have any medical value, apparently. And we all laugh at that because, man, a lot of people would be like, I don't know where I'd be without it, you know. So anyway, U.S. health regulators, as part of the Biden administration's review, and to get it off the most dangerous drugs. So Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Utah have shared information with federal health regulators. And Jahan Marcoux said this is going to be some of the most important data considered. And I would agree with that. So, cannabis moment. Minnesota Indian tribe to launch cannabis sales on August 1st while maintaining ban on alcohol. So that should tell you something. That just should tell you something. The Red Lake Nation's Tribal Council voted on Tuesday to legalize cannabis and begin selling it on August 1st. So, the tribe already cultivates and dispenses medicine. So, they've got the backup to go. Red Lake has an advantage in opening the first dispensary. It won't be convenient for most consumers. Strong said legalizing cannabis will help the tribe in its fight against the opioid addiction epidemic. We see this as a resource not only to reduce harm, but also to bring in resources to help our people recover. And I think that is well said, Strong. All right. Some research has shown legalizing cannabis corresponds with fewer opioid overdoses. Absolutely. Red Lake will also be able to operate dispensaries off reservations. So that's cool. Let's keep cruising. We got a lot to cover. Cannabis moment. Michigan officials vote to end pre-employment cannabis testing for most government workers. That's cool. Right? So, let's keep cruising. I don't need to say anything more about that. U.S. can learn from Portugal's pioneering drug decrim law, former drug official says. The former acting czar says the U.S. has a lot to learn from Portugal. They decriminalize drugs and treat addiction as a health issue through harm reduction. Regina LaBelle argued that the U.S. should take lessons from the country. Portugal took a pioneering approach to its drug crisis and implemented a comprehensive public health-based drug policy approach. So we'll see how that goes, you know, because we don't know until they do it. So we'll find out. But anyway, apparently Portugal is the bee's knees when it comes to drug decrim, I guess. I'm sitting here looking out the window going, how am I going to walk when I'm done here? But again, that's just because I have ADD, and I should be focusing on the task at hand, and that's, you know, regaling you guys with the cannabis talk of the hour, and all I can do is look outside and go, how am I going to get to work with this rain? But anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. High times. Maryland. First week of adult use cannabis sales tops. Anybody want to guess? $20 million were rang up by retailers during the first week of adult use. And that just sounds like a lot, you know? Maryland's first week of sales totaled more than $20 million, only 8 months after they legalized. So they've turned around quick. So legal sales began on July 1st with nearly 100 of Maryland's medical dispensaries now licensed to sell to everybody. During the first 7 days, they sold $20.9 million. So that is crazy. So we'll see how that goes. But again, it's just they're not going to be touting epidemic proportion talk like they are with fentanyl. They're just not going to do it. This is Ganjapreneur. Minnesota adds IBS and OCD to medical cannabis qualifying conditions. The Minnesota added irritable bowel syndrome, which I wonder how cannabis does work with that. I got no idea. I'll have to Google it maybe when I get home. Patients diagnosed with the conditions can begin buying medical cannabis on August 1st. Minnesota medical qualifying conditions list now include 19 conditions. And that's another thing I thought. I wonder which state has the most conditions. Maybe we'll look at that maybe next week. Now, this is a funny one. This one's kind of funny, people. This one's kind of funny. This is from Cannabis Moment. And I think a lot of you, especially you video gamers, are going to chuckle when I say this. But the DEA has the answer for you drug addicts. The DEA knows how you can do better. DEA says, instead of doing drugs, you should spend more time on Instagram and playing video games for a natural high. I'm going to say that again, and trust me, this isn't off from the Babylon Bee. This is real. DEA, the people in charge of enforcing drugs, the highest echelon of ND drug pyramid schemers, DEA says, instead of doing drugs, you should just spend more time on Instagram and playing video games for a natural high. Well, I think anybody who's ever spent any amount of time doing any of these things, as they're, all of a sudden, they're playing their 40th hour of World of Warcraft, they hear a knock, 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 knock. He's like, what? He looks up at his wife standing there. Listen, this isn't going to work anymore. We've packed up. The kids are in the car. This just isn't working out. I'm not going to have a husband who's sitting here spending his time on World of Warcraft all day. The lawyer will get a hold of you, George. But the DEA says this is better. Honey, the DEA said I should stop smoking cannabis and start spending all my time on Instagram. What do you mean you're leaving? You should be applauding me. The DEA said this would be better, babe. It's like, listen, honey, we just got the phone bill, and you've been on this particular Instagram OnlyFans site, and I don't know who told you that was going to be okay, Stephen, but this relationship is over. But the DEA said that's what I should do instead of doing drugs, babe. Right? I mean, I have deleted Instagram. I don't have social media because it's addictive. It's addictive, and it doesn't get anything done. Your yard doesn't mow itself while you're scrolling on Instagram, DEA. Your life goes nowhere on Instagram. You're watching other people's lives progress. But they said it. DEA, and I'm going to read it again, then we'll get into the article. DEA says, and so if they say, that's got to be right. Instead of doing drugs, you should just be on Instagram and play video games all day. I paraphrased. So anyway, the DEA has a message for young people. Instead of doing drugs, you should focus on becoming an Instagram influencer, because that has zero negative effects. That does nothing but build you up and make everything positive in your life. That's ridiculous. The DEA's got to get their life together. The feds is promoting tips on how to get a natural high as an alternative, sharing what it says are 7 better highs, such as becoming famous on Instagram, playing video games, and going to a pet store to look at animals. Now, going to a pet store to look at animals might be an idea. I enjoy that. My daughter enjoys that. But the rest of them are stupid. Okay, so some of the suggestions are fairly standard, like hiking, playing sports, visiting an amusement park. But DEA, which is also known for its attempts to decode emojis that it claims are used to buy drugs, has a few recommendations that are off the beaten path. Oh, I think it stopped raining. Maybe not. All right. Anyway, it's fun to post pics on Instagram and also see what your friends are doing on the app. But if you took it a bit more seriously, you could take over the world and become a young trendsetter, says DEA. Or you could lose everything. Okay. So even if you can't become rich and famous from the app, if you take really awesome pictures, you could gain a decent following while showing off your skills. That's what's wrong with our world. This whole social media stuff ain't great. Whatever, if the DEA says it. The irony of DEA's blog post is that most of the activities the agency lists as alternatives to getting high are exactly the same type of endeavors that people use cannabis to enhance the experience. Don't let boredom be one of the reasons you try drugs, the agency says, as it recommends video games. An activity that a survey found 54% of gamers perform while using cannabis. Do you want to take a little escape from reality altogether, it asks, without a hint of irony? Playing video games. DA also said learning to sing could be a natural high. He goes, be honest, does your family cringe whenever you try to sing along? You know what you can do? Learn how to sing, loser. After a while, you may surprise yourself. Who needs to do drugs, the DEA says. All these activities can give you a natural high. DEA is also being actively tasked with looking at the science of cannabis and reaching a decision about whether to remove it. Well, that isn't encouraging. Last year, and it's funny because social media and some of that stuff should be on that stupid controlled substance list. I mean, just think of like body image and the way people think. You know, kids are being fed and I don't want to say groomed, but they're being influenced by something other than what we were influenced by. We didn't have external influences outside of our parents and our peers and, you know, whatever. But the internet has added a whole nother faction to who's raising your kids, you know, and what are they thinking now that you're letting, you know, Instagram be the end all. So I think that's crazy. So the DEA says instead of doing drugs, you should spend more time on Instagram. But yet the government wants us to take them seriously. They want to be the end all of, you know, what we should be doing, you know, looking up to them like our fathers. And they're idiots. Stonios, Skittles, and other THC candy knockoffs are getting pulled off the shelves. The feds are cracking down because Mars Wrigley won a legal settlement against the makers of Skittles with a Z. And apparently there's edible Cheetos, Doritos. Closely mimics popular children's snacks and candies. But here's the thing. Like I said, I was out at Bible camp this week. And they have a concession stand full of ice cream, candy, snacks, sugary sodas, you know, nacho, Dorito boats, you know, that sort of thing. And there wasn't a kids section. Everybody was eating those stupid Doritos and Oreos and frozen Mexican popsicles. Everybody was. So it's funny, you know, and quite frankly, we should stop marketing these things to everybody. I mean, we have a huge obesity issue. You don't think this stuff doesn't, you know, and an addiction to sugar. Sugar is an addiction. A sugar addict don't need nerds ropes, and they certainly don't need it marketed to them. I say let's get rid of all of it, but, you know, that's just me. So I got one last article. It's from Minnesota Post. Where you can and can't smoke cannabis in Minnesota come August 1st. Cars? Nope. Sidewalks? Mostly for now. Apartment units, possibly, at least initially, struggling. Okay, so, because this is interesting, because, okay, as passed, the law seems to restrict smoking and vaping to single-family homes, yards, and private property not accessible to the public. Combined with restrictions on smoking in apartment buildings, the law appeared to give permission to people who own houses or property. Okay. Could someone walk down the sidewalk and smoke a joint? Yes, I think that's true, said Lindsay Port. Outside a bar, on the sidewalk, public bench, she goes, yes, absent a local ordinance that prohibits it to protect non-users. Cities can put ordinance in for outdoors as they do with cigarette smoking. But assuming that the city doesn't have an ordinance, you could smoke outside in parks. That would put Minnesota outside the mainstream of rec states because nobody else is allow smoking on streets. No public smoking. Senator Jordan Rasmussen from Fergus, who's 6, he said it'll be what lawmakers look at next session. We'll have cannabis fix-it bills next session. Well, good for him. I'm sure they'll suck. So here we go. The much-discussed House Bill 100 is complex and contradictory in some ways. Not the least of which is that it makes it legal to possess, use, and recreational cannabis long before it's legal to buy. Isn't that interesting? So for at least 18 months, the only legal supply... Now, check this sentence out. For at least 18 months, the only legal supply is whatever a resident can grow themselves with the first harvest in time for Halloween. Okay, but... So anyway, presuming non-home growers come up with other means. Okay, here we go. Presuming non-home growers come up with other means of obtaining cannabis flower vapes. Something many Minnesotans have been doing and will continue to do through the illicit market. You hear that? They can Smoke it or vape it legally. So here's what they're saying. You can get it illegally. And if you don't get caught during that exchange, you can have it legally, publicly in Minnesota. But the where has always been a bit vague. A technical reading of the law suggests it is legal to consume in 3 places: residence, backyards, decks, or patios, and eventually at cannabis events. But such a reading is not correct. Those 3 places are protected from infringements by local governments, said Port. We put it in there, the most restrictive language, in order to get the votes we needed to pass it. And that's what they did a lot of stuff. If smoking laws and ordinances ban smoking somewhere, then cannabis would be banned as well. So I'm trying to find where the article is. We're going to see local governments begin to regulate around some of this stuff, including where it's allowed, blah, 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 blah. Nothing in the section prohibits a home rule charter city. Let's see here. Oh, confusion for rental units. Let's see. Those with medical cards have been able to purchase dried flowers, blah, blah, blah. The new law is clear that people who own single-family houses can smoke or vape cannabis starting August 1st. They can also grow up. Okay, now what about apartments? There are 2 references in the law that are slightly conflicting. Starting August 1st, managers of multifamily rental properties most likely defined as buildings with 3 or more units cannot ban the possession of cannabis products or hemp-derived products in rental units. It also denies these guys from prohibiting the use of it, except for consumption by combustion or vaporization of the product. So apartment managers can prohibit smoking and vaping inside units, but they can't keep you from having it. So, you've been listening to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday I get in here, 4:20, open a big fat bag of cannabis news. And this Thursday was no different. I hope you had a good time with me. I know my voice is sounding stellar today. I wish I could make my voice sound like this every time. I'm excited to tell you that we've got Kindle Street Company coming with a double shot. I love it. I haven't heard Stanley Bird Dog mouth in a while, and neither of you. Programming on 95.9 FM, Radio Free Fargo, KRFLP, is being underwritten by Drummer's Journey. Drummer's Journey offers percussion instruments, hardware, electronics, accessories, and more. They have full service for drummers, including repair, custom building, and lessons. Drummer's Journey is located on Highway 10 East Mall, Moorhead, Minnesota. Their hours are Monday through Thursday, 11 to 7, Fridays and Saturdays, 11 to 5, Sundays noon to 5. For more info, check drummersjourney.com. They have a profile on Facebook. Okay. Let's listen to a double shot of Kindle Street Company. First up, Stanley Bird Dog Mouth.
You're so high.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You've been too nice. Double shot, Kindle Street Company on 95.9. Stanley Bird Dog Mouth. He's an oyster. Then Board Shorts. Man, I don't know why I like those so much, but those are great tunes. 95.9, RadioFreeFargo.org. You've been listening to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'm Wilson. Every Thursday I get in here, 4:20, open a big fat bag of cannabis news. And boy, we had a good one today. You can always go back if you want somebody to listen to what I talked about as in regards to Minnesota, because they're a Minnesota resident. Just go to RadioFreeFargo.org. It'll say calendar. You can type in, there's a box there. You can actually go back and listen to this particular show for 9 days. So there you have it. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson again believes God put cannabis here for us to use as we see fit. And I show him props every Sunday. Antioch Church, 10 a.m. recovery class, 11 a.m. worship. Be there or be a square. I'm on stick duty again, and I've been up by the Canadian border, so who knows? I've got to practice in the next couple days. And I will, I promise. Anywho. We got Artemis Shrine will wrap up tonight at 9 o'clock. We've got this mix. And right before me and right after me, Stinky Arts Music Mart, but I don't think he's around, so I'm not sure how that'll play out. But anyway, educate yourselves on the benefits of cannabis so you can educate others on said benefits. And when we get back around here next Thursday, we will talk about it further. But until then, David Allen, Judgment Day. Peace.